and it's such a pleasure to have you here. We're just so delighted. The talk will be titled CaribePop, the New Aesthetics of Caribbean Narratives. Andújar is a performance artist, poet, writer, and scholar. It's impossible to sum up his work in a brief introduction, but we're gonna have the treat of learning more about it today. Originally from the Dominican Republic, Andújar earned his PhD from the Centro de Estudios Avanzados de Puerto Rico y el Caribe, and now holds the post of assistant professor at Governor State University. He is the author of Candela, Amoricidio, and Saturnario, among other titles, and is the recipient of many awards and honors, including what I understand to be an invitation to the 2009 Havana Film Festival as honorary guest of Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah.
The film adaptation of his novel, Candela, will be released this spring. It's such a pleasure to welcome you, and I should mention that Colin Jordan, his translator, is also here with us today. So Colin, it's a pleasure to have you here as well. So I'm now going to turn it over. I'll mute myself and turn it over to you, and welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. And basically, I'm just gonna go ahead and start with a little presentation that I have, in which I'm gonna talk a little bit about my project, and then how I ended up involved with the CaribePop, and philosophically, what does it mean? And what I want to do is to go really fast with this presentation, because I think that what we want to do is have a conversation. And I'm pretty sure that you might have a lot of questions, and that's basically the life of this. And again, thank you for my family, which is here, as people from my family that is here, collaborators, friends, writers, and also colleagues. Thank you so much. This is very nice. It's such a treat to have you here today. So let me share this here with you real quick. And what I'm gonna show you today here is basically, let me see, exactly. What I understand as CaribePop, which is a political statement to approach my writing. And when I talk about political writing, I'm talking about in the sense that Ricardo Piglia, the Argentinian writer, proposed that every writing has a political purpose, but you can decide, you can make this, how can I say it? I mean, there is no casual, that is political, and that's what I'm gonna try to talk about today. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about me and the work that I've done. So basically, the body of work that I have is departs from literature, but I also try to do in an interdisciplinary work based on performance art, not only me performing, but also writing for others to perform, or creating characters or situations for others to perform. The body of work as of now is 3 books of short fiction, 3 collections of short fiction, El Factor Carne, which was basically an exercise in which I will publish a book with short fiction that has won awards in other places, and then a second part of the book in which I share the stories that didn't make it to the contest, showing also, not only showing the good the awarded short fiction, but also the things that didn't work out, the failures, as I call them. And then Amoricidio, which was a book that was written in a state of grace, is the first book that I wrote in Puerto Rico. And then the other side of that coin, which is Saturnario, which is a much darker book, but those 2 books, if you put them together, they are like the Puerto Rican series, I will say. The novels, which are like, I also say like 3 failures, because I always wanted to write a detective novel, but these are my, como los intentos de escribir the detective novel, that they didn't work out, but the books are there. El Hombre Triángulo, which was the first, Candela, which was the second, and then Los Gestos Inútiles. So it's 3 books of short fiction, 3 novels, and my dissertation, because when I wanted to throw myself seriously into literature, I I decided to, I was, my editor at that time in Puerto Rico, Carlos Roberto from Isla Negra, he said, you have to get a PhD in literature so you can teach. And in that way, you also can put your work together, your literary work together. This was 15 years ago. And that's how I decided to stay in Puerto Rico, pursue the PhD, and then come to the United States to teach. In that sense, I would say that I was born in Dominican Republic, but very early I started traveling to Puerto Rico and Curacao. So Dominican Republic and Curacao are my home. Puerto Rico is my school. Cuba is my playground. And Chicago is now the workshop. Everything, the workshop is open, and that's where I'm working from right now, based in Chicago. So about the CaribePop, with that being said, CaribePop is an idea that started with Andres Farias-Cintron, which you see right here. He's a director. And I met Andres when I visited Cuba in 2009, basically in regards to the movie Candela. The producer and the director, we met in Cuba in the International Film and TV School of San Antonio de los Baños. And what Andres decided to do was that he started to building his body of work based on my short fiction. So every time he had an assignment in film school, he would pick one of my short fictions and adapt it to the screen. And that's how we started to collaborate. So we have, for example, Reflex is one that comes to mind right now, that those little projects that we did in collaboration, trying to adapt my universe, as we call them, for the screen. He said that it was easy for him to create characters from my universe because they will live very comfortably in the Caribbean situation that I created for them. All those little como esos pequeños intentos, all those little initiatives ended up in this now. So basically, when you are trying to make a movie, and we were trying to sell Candela, or the idea of Candela, to some investors, you usually put together a mood board in which you show how the photography is going to look, how you're going to use your cameras, your makeup, your actors, and usually it's a common thing that film people do. You take from other pictures and you create, a little video to show the investors and the other people how you pretend to use their money. So what we decided to do is that we decided to put a film and do a little bit of like a prehistory of what we wanted to show in Candela. And that is this now. This now we film in Cuba with $10,000. And we decided that it should be a work of art on its own, even though it was for us the way to get into the long fissure, the Candela. We used it and we treated it as a work of art on its own, and it was very successful for us. Because it brought us a lot of satisfaction. Let's say most of the things that we wanted to see on the screen and from the paper to the screen, we were able to achieve. And we decided at that moment that it wouldn't be a linear thing. So this, what you're seeing right now, are shots from the actual movie Candela. But a lot of things that happen in this now translated themselves into Candela in a very organic way. That's what the CaribePop idea started coming to us. We started to collaborating, and from Andres, Pablo, and I, the project and the concept of CaribePop started to disseminate into other photographers, sculptors, musicians, and basically the idea is that after every traumatic moment in history, you see different art movements that come along. I can think right now in the Buto, the Japanese Buto dance movement came out of the Second World War after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings. So society is always going to have a way to react in an artistic and philosophical way to the traumas and the violence and the political situations that come outside. For us in CaribePop, is basically the narco state in one way that you can think about it. I can tell you that the cocaine years in Miami, for example, what the insertion of the narco politics with the Contra and all that in the situation of the Caribbean for us was, we understood that that was a shift, a political shift. And then the neoliberalism movement came in the 90s. So in particular, the Dominican Republic responded to that with a change of power in the political power from Balaguer to Leonel, basically el PLD, and the influx of cash from the United States in the las franquicias like McDonald's, everything was like franchises, McDonald's, the place that everything, and even the television, the way we had access to education, the immigration, everything got, touched by the neoliberalism movement. And that's when CaribePop for us started, which is an aesthetic. The way that I can picture it to you is basically Blade Runner mixed with Miami Vice and Fernandito Villalona or La Vieja Fefa. It's basically that kind of triangle of taste and movement. CaribePop is a world, for example, in which merengue is not necessarily chopo anymore. Basically, that's where we are after here. These are shots from the movie. CaribePop, our aesthetics are very dark, but when we use color, we try to make the color shine in every scene and in the book as well. So green is very important for us in our palette of colors, green and pink. And these are other projects that are coming outside of the Caribbean. For example, this is a performance, a book performance that came out in Argentina, in which a character from the novel and from the movie publishes a book in Argentina and becomes a poet in Argentina. So, of course, these things come out of my laboratory, but I don't claim them as an author. So in that sense, that idea of the death of the author, that Bards, which will be a fountain from where CaribePop drinks, we don't only teach Roland Barthes or discuss Roland Barthes. We're gonna do those things in a practical manner. That's what we are doing. So in that sense, the author stays aside, and as a collaborative effort, a character from our creation can become an independent agent, an interdisciplinary agent of art. This is another example of how do you call it? The performance of the book itself. Lubrini publishes a second book of poetry now in the United States. And that's Lubrini, basically the actor, Cesar Dominguez, the Cuban actor that portrays Lubrini. He also does performances on himself right now, calling himself Lubrini. So that talks a little bit about the tridimensional power of this character. And I have another conference that I read in Jamaica a couple of years ago with Michael Buckner, that is here with us today. He invited me to the University of West Indies down there to talk about a little bit of Lubrini, the character on its own that is not only on paper, but it's also on the screen, but it's also a real thing. That it's very crazy that you create a character and then the character takes life, no? And to finish for now, and then, talk a little bit about, get your questions and all that. CaribePop came out, we decided to put together a manifesto after the movie was ready. After we finished filming the movie, we decided to come together and put a manifesto, not in the sense that saying that this is the way that we're gonna work right now and that's it, but basically we see it in a way that we take a picture of that moment, you know, and it was very important for us to make a statement that we were together for a reason. And that was a political statement in that sense, a political, more than an artistic statement or a philosophical statement, was a political statement. The end of it says, queremos componer un nuevo abecedario. Los de meteorología utilizarán nuestros jeroglíficos para nombrar huracanes en las temporadas más bravas. Niños y niñas utilizarán nuestras composiciones para pelear, armar, jugar y enamorarse. Compartimos la fiel creencia de que el huracán nos hace vivir en la duda y exponenciar el valor de la pregunta. Nuestra maldita inocencia tropical nos persuade porque somos Caribe y el arrastre se va a enamorar de nosotros, porque somos CaribePop. Thank you very much.